I was stationed at Camp Foster in Okinawa for about 6 months. I was 25, trying to dive into the local culture while dealing with some heavy stuff back home. One day, I wandered into a local market looking for something to eat. The air was rich with the smell of fried food and ocean salt. I was just enjoying the moment when I stumbled upon a small, dimly lit exhibit tucked away in a corner. It was about World War II and the suffering endured by the locals. It felt wrong. The displays were haunting. I could barely breathe when I saw a photograph of soldiers from that time. They looked so much like my fellow Marines. I took a step back. I wanted to explore more, but something pulled at my gut and the following weeks, things changed. My buddies started acting weird. They were quieter, avoided eye contact, and shadows danced in their expressions. I woke up one night in a cold sweat after a nightmare full of shadowy figures. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Maybe it was the stress. I really wasn't sure. The more I explored the island, the more I felt a connection between my unit and the dark history surrounding us. It felt like those ghosts from the past were following me. I tried to talk to Sergeant Walker about it. I thought maybe he could help, but he seemed distant, like he was hiding something. My heart raced every time I saw him, things at base grew tense. I felt the atmosphere shift, a weight in the air when darkness fell. One afternoon, I stood outside. Sunlight bathed the camp, yet I felt cold. Walker approached me, his face pale. He looked over his shoulder. "You feel it too, don't you?" he asked, and I nodded. It wasn't just me, it was everyone. My gut churned as our fears festered. My mind couldn't shake the weight pressing down on my shoulders. I told myself it was imagination. But the more I brushed it off, the more it grew. One night, I stepped outside, looking towards the cliffs. The crashing waves filled the air, but all I could hear was a voice. "Help us." It felt wrong. I wanted to scream, but I just stood there, heart pounding. "Corporal." A voice yelled out. I turned around, but nobody was there. A part of me thought I was unraveling. Maybe all of us were. But that question lingered. What really happened all those years ago? I felt it in my bones. As I faced the darkness, I wondered if we'd ever know. Then I turned back around, and they were their specters of the past, staring straight at me. I couldn't move. The shadows wrapped around us, like the weight of history itself pressing down. I was trapped, caught between the living and the lost. I stood frozen, my breath caught in my throat. The specters loomed, eyes hollow and pleading, and just as I thought they might reach out, they vanished. The cold air rushed back in, and I stumbled backward, heart racing. What was happening? The night grew heavy, each sound amplified. I could hear the waves crashing against the rocks, but they felt distant, almost muted. I glanced around, half expecting someone or something to break the silence, but I was alone. Shadows danced in the corners of my vision, and though I tried to shake it off, fear twisted my insides that I decided I had to talk to Walker again. The last conversation left me on edge, but if anyone knew what was going on, it was him. He had seen things, he had to have felt this too. I found him sitting on a bench outside the barracks, staring out into the darkness. "Sergeant," I called, my voice shaking slightly. He turned, eyes wide, almost as if he had just woken up from a bad dream. "Hey, Corporal," he said, his voice distant. "What is going on? There is something wrong here, something we're not being told." I saw them. I hesitated, unsure how to explain what had happened. "Last night, I felt them. I heard them say, 'Help us.'" He shifted uncomfortably. "You shouldn't be talking like that. It messes with your head." "What do you know, Walker? Just tell me." He looked around, scanning the area as if he expected someone to overhear. "You don't want to dig into this. We've all got our own baggage." His voice dropped. "I saw things, back then. Things that still haunt me. Why not talk about it? If we share, maybe it'll help. We can understand what is going on. He shook his head slowly. You don't get it. Some things are better left in the dark. Trust me. Before I could respond, a loud crash echoed nearby. We both jumped, instinctively reaching for our sidearms. I shot a look back toward the cliff, where the sound had come from. I'll check it out, I said, adrenaline surging through my veins. Wait. Walker grabbed my arm but released me almost immediately. Be careful. I stepped into the darkness, the air thick and charged. Each step felt heavier than the last. As I neared the cliff edge, I could see the white foam of the waves crashing violently against the rocks below. Then, I noticed something glinting in the moonlight, a piece of metal that I crouched down and brushed the dirt away. My stomach dropped as I uncovered an old dog tag, rusted but still legible. The name was faded, but there was no mistake about the initials, K.O. My heart raced. The tag felt heavy in my hand, a link to the past I didn't want. Just then, the voice returned, clearer this time, echoing in my ears, "Help us." Suddenly, the ground beneath me shifted. I lost my balance, tumbling forward. Everything went dark. I jolted awake, gasping for air. The ground felt hard beneath me, and I blinked against the sudden burst of light. Confused, I tried to sit up, but a wave of nausea washed over me. My fingers brushed against the dirt and gravel, and then I remembered falling. "Corporal. Are you okay?" Walker's voice cut through my haze. He was crouching beside me, his brow furrowed with concern. I think so," I stammered, trying to collect my thoughts. "What happened? You just disappeared. 1 minute you were there, and then boom. I thought we had lost you." He helped me to my feet, his grip firm. My pulse quickened as I remembered the dog tag, the voice calling for help. "I found something," I said, looking back toward where I had fallen. A dog tag. It had initials K.O. It felt like it belonged to someone important. Walker's expression darkened. "You shouldn't have touched anything. Some things are better left alone, remember?" The voice lingered in my mind. "Help us." It echoed and twisted inside me, demanding attention. Who was K.O.? I pressed, my curiosity gnawing. He hesitated, glancing back toward the barracks as if checking for eavesdroppers. K.O. was a soldier, a good man. He went missing a long time ago. They said he was lost to the sea. Something shifted in the air, a tension that prickled my skin. Lost? But how? There were rumors. Stories. Some say he never made it back from a mission. Others think he is still out there, waiting for rescue. But it was too long ago. The unit moved on. "We all did," he said, his voice distant that I shook my head, unsettled by the possibilities. But what if he is not? What if he is still? My words trailed off. The thought terrified me. I wasn't just hearing things, I was being pulled into a mystery. Suddenly, a low growl rolled from the bushes nearby. We both spun around, instincts kicking in. The darkness seemed to stretch and shift. A moment later, a figure stumbled out, drenched and disheveled. I squinted, my heart pounding as recognition hit me. "It's him," I gasped, but it wasn't TKO. It was another soldier, a young man with wide, terrified eyes. He stumbled toward us, panting hard. Help me please," he gasped, his voice raspy. "Who are you?" Walker asked, bewildered. "What happened to you?" I can't remember. But you need to come with me." "They're coming," he warned, glancing back over his shoulder, panic mixing with desperation that a chill crept down my spine. "Who is coming?" Before he could answer, the growl returned, louder this time. Both Walker and I exchanged glances filled with dread. The night grew impossibly still around us, and I felt my heart beat faster, fear tensing my muscles. Then, breaking the stillness, a shadow moved in the darkness behind the woods, and I knew we had to move. "Run!" I yelled, taking off toward the barracks. But just as I turned, I heard the young soldier scream. The night throbbed with uncertainty, and I was left wondering what horrors were really hiding in the dark. I sprinted toward the barracks, adrenaline pushing my legs harder than I thought possible. Each step felt like I was tearing away from a nightmare that clung too closely. Behind me, I could hear the young soldier's desperate cries mingling with a chilling growl that sent shocks of fear through my body. "Walker! Keep up!" I shouted, but I barely glanced back. My focus was on getting to safety, whatever that meant now. The barracks were just ahead, a dark silhouette against the night sky, but the shadows around us were shifting. Then, I skidded to a halt. Walker wasn't right behind me. Panic rose in my throat. "Walker!" I yelled, scanning the darkness. My heart raced, each beat hammering against my ribs. Just as I turned, I caught a glimpse of him sprinting, eyes wide with sheer terror, but there was another figure in the shadows, a massive shape that loomed larger as it stepped into the dim light. "Keep moving!" Walker yelled, his voice strained. I felt the urge to turn and help him, but I couldn't. We had to reach the barracks. Just as I crossed the threshold, I turned around and bumped into something solid. My breath caught. It was the girl we had met a few weeks ago, Private Marie. Her expression shifted from fear to relief, but it quickly morphed into horror as she saw the urgency on my face. "What is going on?" she asked, her eyes darting from me to the darkness behind us. "They're coming," I gasped, still panting. I started, but a sudden scream echoed from the woods, cutting me short. "Walker!" Marie grasped my arm tightly, her fingers digging into my skin. "What is happening?" she pressed, her voice rising with panic. Before I could answer, the growl rippled through the air again, closer this time. A deep, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate beneath my skin. Without thinking, I pushed Marie toward the barracks, urgency overtaking my instincts. "We have to barricade the doors," I shouted, adrenaline pumping through me. As we rushed inside, I caught a glimpse of the figure in the trees. It was hulking, almost human in shape, but too large, too twisted. Dark eyes glinted in the shadows, and I could feel its gaze pulling at the back of my neck. Once inside, I slammed the door shut and bolted it. Marie and I quickly moved furniture against the entrance, but it already felt futile. I could hear rustling and snapping branches outside, sounds that made my skin crawl. "What the hell was that?" Marie breathed, her face pale. "I don't know," I admitted, my voice quivering. "But I heard the soldiers say they were coming. We shouldn't have touched that dog tag." "Do you think he was?" "Let us not think about that right now," I interrupted. Then, a low thud resonated from the door, causing us both to jump. Panic flashed in Marie's eyes. "That wasn't normal," she whispered, her voice breaking. I nodded, teeth biting into my lip. "We need to find Walker before it's too late." Just then, a loud crash echoed off the walls, as if something massive had thrown itself against the door. I felt a sting of fear slashing through me. Then, the lights flickered and went out, plunging us into complete darkness. "Marie!" I yelled, fear gripping me. A heavy silence followed, and then, from the dark, a voice emerged, barely above a whisper, "Help us." My heart froze. I couldn't breathe. That voice, it wasn't Marie's. Panic surged through me again. "Who is there?" I called, my voice shaky and small against the dark. Silence hung heavy for a split second before a muffled whimper came from nearby. The air turned thick with dread. "Marie?" I whispered. Her hand gripped mine, shaking. "It's not me," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The voice called again, "Help us." It wrapped around my very core, a haunting echo with no source. Instinct kicked in, driving me toward the wall. My fingers brushed along the rough surface, searching for the light switch, but there was nothing but shadow and the sound of my breath. Then, there was movement, a quick shuffle to my left. I turned, straining to see anything, my heart thumping in my ears. "Marie?" I repeated, my voice gathering urgency. "I'm right here." She snapped, her voice edged with fear. "It's not you, then," I murmured, edging back toward the faint outline of the barricaded door. Another crash from outside sent shards of adrenaline through me. "We need to reinforce the door. They'll get in." Marie and I fumbled our way back to the entrance, our hands racing to pile anything we could find against it. I grabbed a nearby bench, dragging it in front of the door. "What the hell is out there?" Marie gasped, her voice trembling as she shoved a chair against the frame, her eyes wide with alarm that I had no answers. All I could do was focus on the looming threat, on the instinct to survive. "Whatever it is, it doesn't want us here." Suddenly, the door rattled violently, as if something long and heavy slammed against it. The barricade shuddered. "It's stronger than we thought," Marie cried. It was time to reconsider our options, but I wasn't ready to lose hope just yet. "Stay by me," I urged, realizing our whispers made us sound weak. We had to fight back. "There's got to be something in here we can use." Just as I turned to search the dim room, the lights flickered back to life, casting harsh shadows against the walls. My breath hitched. The long table was now blocking the door to the hallway, the only escape route. "Look!" Marie pointed, her voice sharp. "What's that?" There, just beyond the table, lay something shiny, glinting in the flickering light. I moved closer and quickly picked it up, my eyes adjusting. It was a dog tag, a familiar one. Walker's name was inscribed on it, along with his service number. "Where did you find that?" Marie's voice shot out, panic lacing her tone. "I don't know," I stammered. "It wasn't here before." My pulse quickened with realization. "Walker must have dropped it when he was running from it," Marie finished, her face paling. A sudden realization dawned on us both. It wasn't just Walker that was in danger. Then, as if on cue, the air shifted. The growl outside had returned, but mixed with it was a rustling, almost like whispers. "Help us." The shadows outside the window twisted, and I turned toward them. That's when I saw it. The shadows shifted again, and my stomach dropped. It wasn't just a trick of the light. A figure loomed at the edge of the window, its outline flickering in and out of focus. I felt Marie squeeze my hand, a silent plea for reassurance. "Do you see that?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Yeah," she replied, her breath quickening. "What the hell is it?" The shape was hunched, moving erratically. It glided closer, the growl turning into a series of low, desperate sounds. "Help us!" It was a voice, but not a voice, echoing through the glass and reverberating in my mind that I instinctively turned to the dog tag in my hand. Walker's name pulsed against my palm, as if it were alive. "We have to find him," I said, my thoughts racing through possibilities. "Maybe he's out there." "Are you insane?" Marie shot back, her voice sharp with disbelief. "What if it's waiting for us?" Another crash echoed through the barricaded door, shaking our makeshift defenses. "We don't have time," I countered, urgency overtaking my fear. The pressure was building, and I knew we had to act fast. "Fine," she relented, her voice shaking. "But we stick together." With trembling hands, I pushed the table aside. The light flickered again, casting the room into uncertain shadows. I pulled at the door's handle, my heart racing. It opened with a groan, revealing the remnants of the hallway dark and warped. I stepped out cautiously. The atmosphere felt thick, pulling me back. But the call of Walker echoed in my mind. "Stay close." I hissed to Marie as I stepped into the corridor, my eyes darting around. The growling diminished, replaced by silence that buzzed in my ears. Walker. The only response was a distant thump, echoing down the hall. My breath caught in my throat. "He's close," I said, the realization crystal clear. I had to find him, had to know if he was alive. That we moved cautiously, each creak of the floorboards amplifying my dread. I glanced back, ensuring Marie was right behind me. There were no other sounds, no growls, no whispers. Just the tangible tension filling the air. Suddenly, the lights flickered one last time before plunging the hallway into darkness. My heart raced as the growl returned, louder and more menacing. "Run!" I shouted as the sounds of something heavy and monstrous rushed toward us. Before I could take another breath, a figure lunged out of the void. I barely had time to register the grotesque shape before we were thrown off balance, and everything light, sound, hope collapsed around us. Then, everything went dark. My senses returned slowly, like a heavy fog lifting. A sharp pain throbbed at the back of my head, and I blinked against the dim light. I was lying on the cold floor, and the air around me smelled damp and moldy. I pushed myself up, heart racing. "Marie?" I croaked, and my voice sounded foreign in the eerie quiet. "Here," she answered weakly from a few feet away, her face pale but unharmed. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived when the reality of our situation hit me. The corridor was alive with shadows. The sounds from earlier had faded into an unsettling silence. "Do you think it's gone?" I asked, glancing nervously at the dark spaces that twisted into hallways leading to nowhere. "I don't know," she replied, her breath unsteady. The fear in her eyes matched what I felt. "But we need to move, now." We struggled to our feet, supporting each other. The bright glare of an overhead light flickered irregularly above us, casting the hallway in a strobe of chaos. I could feel the pulse of adrenaline in my veins, urging us forward. Pushing ourselves deeper into the belly of the building, we stumbled upon a door that swung ajar at the end of the hall. The distant thumping sound resumed, a rhythmic beat that made my heart race. "Walker!" I called again, louder this time, desperation coating my words. That we stepped inside, the room dimly lit. Desks and outdated equipment cluttered the space, covered in thick dust and remnants of time. But what struck me was the walls covered in old newspaper clippings and faded photographs. I stepped closer, drawn by the uncanny stories displayed like a tapestry of the past. "Look at this," I said, pulling a clip free. It detailed a series of unexplained disappearances on the base. My throat went dry as I scanned the lines. Were these soldiers like Walker never found? Marie leaned in, equally enraptured. I felt an unease settle over us. "What's this all about?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out." The atmosphere began to shift as the thumping sound morphed into a distortion of voices, echoing the word "help" over and over. "Do you hear that?" Marie whispered, her voice trembling. "Yeah." My stomach twisted. "We have to find out what happened." I turned back to the door, a sense of urgency coursing through me. But as we prepared to leave, the door suddenly slammed shut, trapping us inside. The sound rang with finality, as if the very walls were conspiring against us. "This can't be happening!" Marie shouted, rattling the handle, but it wouldn't budge. "Step back!" I yelled, adrenaline surging as I kicked at the door. It groaned, rattling in its frame, but held firm. In that moment of panic, the lights went out completely, leaving us in utter darkness. The low growl returned, surrounding us like a shroud. "Someone's here," I said, panic bubbling within me. And that's when I realized I wasn't alone. Something was lurking in the corners, something I couldn't see but felt immensely close, watching. Each breath was a pulse of dread, and a chill ran down my spine. Then, I heard a voice, a whisper, right behind me. "Help us!" I froze, every muscle in my body tense. The whisper, soft yet insistent, wrapped around me like a noose. I wanted to turn, to see what was there, but instinct warned me against it. Marie's hand gripped my arm, fear pulsing through her as we locked eyes in the darkness. "Did you hear that?" she gasped, her voice trembling. "Yes," I managed to say, my throat dry. I could feel the weight of whatever was lurking behind me, pooling in the corners of the room. "We need to stay alert." The build-up of dread was palpable as I inched forward, eyes straining to adjust to the darkness. The whispers continued, a cacophony of lost voices merging into one terrifying plea. "Help us, help us." It echoed around us, rising and falling like a wave. "Over there," Marie whispered, pointing to a sliver of light spilling through the cracks of a boarded-up window. "We might be able to find another way out." I nodded, swallowing hard. As we moved toward the faint glow, I glanced around. The room felt alive, the air charged with energy. Every creak or groan of the old building made my heart race. Whatever was watching us seemed to be just outside our reach, waiting patiently for us to expose ourselves. That we reached the window, the light flickering ominously. I pulled on the boards, testing their strength. "Help me." With effort, we pried one board loose, and a beam of moonlight broke through. The shadows in the room cast eerie shapes, twisting in the shifting light. I could almost make out figures in the flicker, soldiers in uniforms, faces twisted in silent screams. "No!" I gasped, unwanted images flooding my mind. I could almost see the headlines again, the faces from the clippings. They hadn't just disappeared, they had become part of this, whatever this was. "Focus," Marie urged, her urgency cutting through my panic. I shoved the remaining boards aside. It created enough space to squeeze through. But just before I moved, the growling deepened, and the temperature dropped sharply. I could feel the presence close behind us. "Go," I ordered, and Marie slipped through first. I followed, adrenaline surging as I crawled beneath the jagged edge of wood. My heart hammered as I landed on the other side, stumbling to my feet. As I steadied myself, I turned to help Marie up. But as I reached for her, the door behind us burst open. Dark figures filled the entryway, their eyes glowing like embers in the dimness. That we were trapped. The growling now surrounded us, a menacing chorus echoing off the walls. "What do we do?" Marie's voice quivered. "Run!" I screamed. We dashed down a narrow corridor, scrambling past shadowy figures that seemed to inhale the light from our flashlights. Each step echoed with dread. Suddenly, I spotted a door at the end, marked with a faded sign, "Armory." It felt like a lifetime as I sprinted towards it, the growling intensifying. Just before reaching the handle, I glanced over my shoulder. That's when I saw it. A figure, twice the height of a man, its face obscured by shadows but eyes burning with an unnatural light. I barely registered the horror before pushing the door open with a desperate shove, but what I found inside was worse than I could have imagined. The room was not a storage for weapons, it was filled with remnants of the past, old uniforms, crates marked danger, and scattered files detailing experiments. The chill in the air thickened, twisting my stomach. "Marie!" I shouted, fear creeping into every inch of my being. "We need to leave, now." Before I could turn, the door slammed shut behind us, sealing us inside with a haunting whisper that echoed in the dark. "Help us." I stumbled back, bracing myself against a rusted filing cabinet as the echoes of that eerie whisper washed over me. Marie was at my side, looking around the cluttered room with wide eyes, a mixture of fear and curiosity that mirrored my own. "What is this place?" she asked, stepping cautiously towards a dusty crate. The word danger was stamped across it in bold, warning letters. "I don't know," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. The air felt thick, heavy with secrets and history. The ticking of an unseen clock echoed in the background, growing louder as if counting down to something horrifying. That I glanced back at the door. It was solid, a barrier against whatever lurked outside. But the growling was still there, even more insistent now, as if it was pressing in on us. I spotted a small window at the far end of the room, but the metal grating looked too old to break easily. "Let us check for a way out," I said, urgency slipping into my tone. We moved together, scanning the space. Marie stepped over scattered documents, some yellowed with age, filled with technical jargon I could barely comprehend. Sketches of devices and gruesome diagrams littered the floor, then I saw it a folder partially opened, revealing a name, Project Nighthawk. My heart raced as I leaned closer. The details were chilling. Experiments conducted on soldiers during their time in combat, tests that went far beyond anything normal. My pulse quickened as the realization hit me, these weren't just ordinary military operations. This was something dark, something that should have stayed buried. "Derek, look!" Marie exclaimed, her voice cutting through the mounting dread. She pointed toward an old locker in the corner, rusted and nearly toppled over. "Maybe there's something in there." I followed her, my mind racing with possibilities. We reached the locker, and with a shaky breath, I pulled it open. Inside, there was a dusty rifle and worn-out ammunition, but more alarming was the wall behind the locker, marked with faded handprints and strange symbols. It looked like a desperate plea for help or a warning. "Do you think they were trapped here?" Marie whispered, her face pale. I nodded, dread pooling in my stomach. "It feels like they're reaching out to us." Suddenly, the door rattled violently, the dark figures just outside pressing against it like a tide. The air around us grew colder as they pushed harder. Panic surged through me. "We have to find a way out now." But before I could formulate a plan, the lights flickered ominously, and something brushed past me, a rush of cold air and a whisper that rose above the grumbling noise. "Join us," I turned, instinctively shielding Marie with my body. The shadows twisted at the edges of our vision, growing more aggressive. Then, a crack exploded in the silence, the sound of something breaking behind us. I whirled around just in time to see the grating of the small window breaking free. "This way!" I shouted, pushing Marie toward it. The shadows were closing in, forming shapes that appeared more human than ever. A sense of urgency gripped me. Just as we raced to escape, I heard the growling shift to a roar. I pulled Marie into the space of the window, our freedom within reach, but the shadows surged forward, that's when I saw it, not just one figure, but hundreds, each whispering, "Help us," their faces distorted in anguish, reaching out. My breath hitched as I grasped Marie's hand tighter. I had a choice: climb through to freedom or turn back and face the darkness. The moment hung heavy in the air as I prepared to leap into the unknown. "Hold on tight." I scrambled through the window just as the shadows surged forward, a torrent of darkness that threatened to consume everything. The metal grating scraped against my body, but I didn't stop to feel the pain. I launched myself out into the cold night air. I landed hard on the ground outside, rolling to absorb the impact. "Marie!" I shouted, spinning around to see her struggling through the narrow opening. As I reached back to help her, the howls of the shadows echoed in the air, a desperate chorus of unsatisfied souls. My heart raced when I saw the first of them spill out of the doorway behind her, horrific figures clawing at the light, eyes wide and vacant, mouth stretching into silent screams. "Come on!" I urged her. She finally tumbled through the window, landing beside me as we scrambled to our feet. We didn't have time to breathe. The moment was filled with a primal urgency to escape that we ran, racing away from the building, the darkness swirling behind us, palpable and insatiable. The whispers taunted us, echoing in my mind, "Help us." Each step felt heavy with the weight of those lost souls, but we had to keep moving. As we sprinted toward the edge of the camp, the distant lights of the base flickered, like a signal of safety, but the shadows surged closer, howling with despair. "Derek! Look!" Marie shouted, pointing toward the cliffs. Dim figures stood at the edge, shrouded in the mist, their anguished faces twisted with need. "Do you think they're trying to warn us? Or trap us?" I shot back, the cold bite of fear creeping into my voice. I could hardly think straight as I grabbed Marie's wrist, pulling her onward, away from the siren call of the past. Once we reached the main road, we ran until our lungs burned, never looking back. Behind us, I could sense the shadows receding, their dark forms lingering just out of sight, retreating into the night like a tide pulled back from the shore. The blue lights of a military vehicle flickered in the distance, a reassuring beacon of normalcy amidst the chaos that we stumbled into a small checkpoint, breathless and shaking. The nearby guards rushed toward us, confusion flashing across their faces as they saw the fear etched into our expressions. What happened? One of them asked, and instinctively, I knew that the full truth would be far too heavy to lay on them. I couldn't drag anyone else into this darkness. Just a mistake, I managed, trying to catch my breath. We got lost in the base. There's something out there. I cast a glance over my shoulder, half expecting to see the shadows chasing us down, but they remained far off, lurking just at the edge of my consciousness. Marie stood beside me, her face pale but resolute. We need help. That place, something's wrong there. But the guards only exchanged concerned looks, and I sensed in their eyes a skepticism that matched the doubt lingering in my heart. Over the following days, I tried to make sense of everything. The base remained eerily quiet, the past still lurking just beneath the surface. I spoke to Walker again, but he only shook his head, resigned to the weight of our unspoken fears. You don't understand, Corporal. Some things need to stay buried. Just leave it be. I moved out of the barracks a week later. The memories of the shadows clung to me, along with the whispers of those who had vanished long ago. I never saw Walker again, nor did I return to that part of the camp. The history there remained unchanged, and I was left to wonder how many souls still lingered, trapped between the realms of the living and the lost. Sometimes, when the waves crashed against the shore, I could almost hear them calling those lost soldiers, forever waiting in the dark. I still find myself staring at the sea, the horizon blurring with the memories I couldn't entirely shake. I moved away, trying to seek the light again, yet I knew the shadows would never quite let me go. A part of me still wonders, what truly haunts that base? Was it merely echoes of history, or something more? I guess I'll never know.